And tonight we have Peter Phillips, who has been doing teach-ins for us. He's done 2 teach-ins already on media skills that were internal for our group, and they're so excellent that last year, after the last one that he did with us, we thought it's time to share this with the community so that we can share the resource of media skills and media planning with other activists in the community. So welcome everybody, and thank you, Peter. Again at the end.
Sure, kick me off. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. I didn't expect this many people. I only brought 25 sets of, there are 3 handouts, and so I thought there should be enough to get everybody, or at least one, so you can look on with somebody and look at it. My pedagogy, my way of teaching is conversation, and that's what I hope to do tonight. One of the goals tonight is to get you to identify a key issue that is very important to you and that you're going to write about and publish. So I require my investigative research class at Sonoma State to publish every year, and we had 2 op-ed, we had 2 letters to the editor and the PD last semester, a couple. I read the other 2 papers around here, a lot on indie media, so there's plenty of places to put your opinions. And when I use the word opinion, I mean opinion based on a good, solid, written, factual statement in some capacity on whatever issue you're most concerned about. We'll go through the steps of PR campaign. We'll go through the steps of press releases. I really want to focus on op-ed writing and letters to the editor, and actually have you do that. This is a 2-part, 2 nights, and we'll do this again in 2 weeks. And by then we'll have expected to have written and be ready to read and get editorial feedback. You know, a letter to the editor and or a longer op-ed. Letter to the editor is under 200 words, an op-ed is 500 words. And a strategy of where you're going to publish that. Tonight, we really want you to identify what topic you would be interested in, and you will write an introductory paragraph to the key issues of that topic. So that'll be and we're going to hear from everybody. It'll take us a while to, part of the process is doing that. I was director of Project Censored for 14 years. Bill Simon to my right here is vice president of our board. I'm president of the board. Nikki Huff, who teaches at Diablo Valley College, is director of Project Censored. Andy Roth, who's down at Claremont, is the associate director, and we now operate 25 campuses all over the country, which is pretty exciting. It's been really growing and emerging. So we've got young, half the JCs in the Bay Area are participating now, and it's a critical thinking media program, literally, and that was Carl Jensen's intention, I think, originally, and that was 39 years ago, and we just lost him recently. In fact, July 25th is his memorial. It'll be at the Episcopalian Church in Roanoke Park there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But his dream was, the critical thinking, media literacy, understanding what's really going on with media is incredibly important to them. And it requires a citizen-based participation. We've been so propagandized by corporate media that today that people don't, it's entertainment. And we've watched it since we started Project Censored go from 50 major media corporations in the country down to about 6. You count the New York Times and the Washington Post at 7 and 8. But in terms of media, and most people get their information from television. And that is total media control entertainment propaganda. There's no way to, there's no news on corporate media that feeds any kind of progressive understanding of what's really going on in the world. There's just nothing there. And so, if that's your orientation, or you believe in human rights and humanitarian values and due process in our society, and you support the Bill of Rights and our Constitution, then we all need to be engaged in speaking to those issues and addressing them on a regular basis, from the bottom up, from our own communities up. I'm going to go around the room and have you say who you are, what either organization you're here representing, or a key issue you're concerned about, and what media do you read on a regular basis? Is there a community newspaper, the Bohemian, the PD, something else? I don't care if you watch television news or not, it's fine. It's fine to be entertained. Or if you want to talk about what radio station you listen to for news. I, of course, work at KPFA. We do an hour show there. And their news is okay most of the time. A little too much. A lot of Associated Press reads that I think they could do better with, but that's okay. And so that's what I want to do right now. Bill, you want to start?
I'll start. I'm not going to remember all that, but my name is Bill Simon, and in addition to working with Peter with Project Censored, I'm president of Ethics for Peace, the local chapter here. And my news, I get my news from a wide variety of places, but I don't get television. So it's mainly internet, Truth Dig, Democracy Now!, things like that. What was the other question? What the topic?
Key issues.
Yes, key issue.
Key issue.
Yeah.
We're dealing with an issue it's actually in the paper today at the bottom, the front page. There's a lot of, I forget how many million, but a lot of money went into the Department of Defense going into revisioning the Vietnam War. I think it's part of a campaign to so they don't have to go into a draft. Some people were deployed 6 times since 9/11, and I think they are in need of more volunteers. This is my theory, but they definitely are putting a lot of money into revisioning the Vietnam War to clean it up and make it nice and tidy. And if you look in the press democrat today at the bottom, there's an example of that. That's an issue that I'm concerned about as a Vietnam veteran. I'm concerned about that. In terms of this, I think a more concrete issue would be non-citizen veterans that are honorably discharged from the U.S. military are being deported now. And that's a more concrete thing for focusing on for something like this. And I think I've answered all the questions. If I haven't, but so is there another one? I need a list in my hand. Okay.
All right.
No, it's on our website.
Amazing group of people here. Very strong activists in many ways. Hopefully, I want to talk about activism a little bit because the corporate media and our government today, and I even say at the transnational level, is to isolate us, tell us to go shopping, and shut up. And and make us afraid. So that we're afraid to speak out. And the only remedy to that is to speak out. Abraham Maslow had his hierarchy of needs. I mean, if you've got a basic place to live, food to eat, and survival, then the next level is love and security in terms of people around you. Then the highest level he talked about, I'm not sure that those things are necessarily in some hierarchical order, is self-actualization. And self-actualization is acting on your feelings and beliefs. And when you write or you speak out or you address issues, that's a self-actualization process. No matter what your job is on a daily basis. And you may not like it. You may be alienated from it. But actualization is being able to speak your mind as openly as you can. And I think students, they tend to understand that. Some are still afraid, they're worried about getting jobs, the young people I see today. Some, they want to put a pseudonym on their op-ed so that their employer won't see they did it. That we have to save, open back up, and use every capability that we've got from the bottom up to say no to that kind of top-down control. Since 4 or 5 years ago, I was no longer director of Project Censored. My research is focused. Last year, we did a big study on police accountability, and that's in the current 15 book. And we interviewed families who lost people, loved ones who've been killed by police in the Bay Area. That was a long study, 10-year study that we've done. But other than that, I've been working on transnational corporate class and the elites of the world. And we really have, there's a short letter to the editor in the people in here that lays some of that out, but we're talking about a few thousand people. Less than that, literally, that control half the wealth in the world, $100 trillion worth of wealth. And so it's so concentrated that half the world lives on less than $3 a day. The rest of the people are, even if you make 100,000, you're not in the 1% unless you have $600,000 in assets. And even then, the difference between the bottom rung of the 1% and the top 1,000th of 1%, it's just immense. It's just immense. And the money management groups that control this place, you may be a multimillionaire, and you invest your money, but you invest it through a money management firm, BlackRock, Barclays Bank. There's a variety of them. Our 14 book, and Kimberly and I worked on that too. Our 14 book has a list of the top 13 in the world. They only have 161 managers, board of directors, and they control $25 trillion worth of wealth. So it's less, so it's so concentrated. And they're the ones pushing TPP. They're the ones trying to privatize the world. Literally moving towards what William Robinson calls the 21st century fascism. And that's what we're up against. And the only challenge to that is to actively be democratically engaged in our own communities, our own voices, from the bottom up, speaking out every chance we can get. To be self-actualized, to have friends, partners that we work with, we challenge each other, and you set goals for yourself. I want to get a letter to the editor of the paper on this issue. I want to do it in another paper. I want to be interviewed on a television or radio show. You just keep doing it. And you can all publish tonight when you get home. 50 words on indiemedia.org, your own stuff, and say what you thought. You go to indiemedia.org and you can self-publish. That's the people's website. And there may be other websites that you have that you can publish on as well. indymmedia.org. They came out of the Seattle demonstrations 15 years ago now. And they're all over the world. But it's self-publishing. It's unregulated. And the internet is not edited. So the elites and the military have people working for them that are meant to create chaos in the world. That's the goal. The more chaos we have, the more frustrations we have, the more we don't see any hope, and we feel helpless in the process. That's when we shut up and just entertain ourselves. And that's deliberate. So you can't trust the internet, but you can trust various sites if you know who's there and who's running them. So Truth Out, Global Research, the Occupy, there's newsletters, Op-Ed News, Christian Science Monitor, Russia Today, Al Jazeera, I mean, there's plenty of news services that are pretty good and are trustworthy. We list about 30 of them on the Project Censored website with direct links. But you find what you can stay with, what you can be involved. I read the PD every day, just more for local news, and just to see what's going on here. And the international, they leave so much stuff out, it's just amazing. And they, of course, are now owned by developers and concert hall builders. So that's but they will publish a letter. I had a letter just 2 weeks ago, which I gave you a copy of. I had a full op-ed in there 2 times in the last couple of years. I mean, so they will. You can get in there. And then there's all the other independent local newspapers, the Russian River Times, the West County Gazette, wherever you live, there's some sort of print thing that you can get into. But young people today are really, if you want to reach young people, it's really about being online, about Facebook and tweets and that. I mean, if I'll ask how many students in my class of 40 read a newspaper, we're lucky to get 1 or 2 now. Young people don't read newspapers anymore. They're still okay, they're still valid, but television news is a waste of time. So really, there's radio and there's local print that we've got, and the internet, and using that and building sources and friends on the internet. So that Facebook page isn't just about, putting pictures of your kids and your pets up. I mean, it's really a way to share information with each other and your friends and you think they're important and engage in that way. So I'm going to go through the 6 steps of the PR campaign. I'd ask Bill if we could talk in terms of the best for peace, maybe think this through a little bit. There's no textbook for how you do this. Part of it is what your issues are. If you want to address TPP, your definition of some of this will be a little bit different. So if that's for peace, we're going to have a publicity or media campaign around the issue you brought up, which was people who have been in the military but aren't citizens are now being deported. Who would your audience be? And who would you?
The group?
Well, I'm asking you, Bill.
Well, I would say people that are concerned about non-citizens in a general sense,
So immigrant rights.
and how they're being treated.
I think veterans,
Pardon me?
veterans would be important.
Sure.
You're right. All right. Some veterans would care about that. Some would not.
Also, they have a lot of new publications that are coming out that are bilingual. I can't remember the names, the Dave Ransom
New
papers.
Press.
The new press out of here.
Yeah, the new press,
Yeah.
little like publications that maybe are bilingual, that are hitting both English and Spanish speakers.
Definitely. That would be a really good one.
Yeah, because they're the ones who, aren't the Hispanics the ones being deported?
Primarily.
Yeah, so the bilingual.
How many of that's for peace locally?
Huh?
Locally, about 40 or 50. They're not active.
How many are active?
Active, we have maybe 20.
Okay. We have 20 people who could potentially write a letter to the editor, speak out or hold events around the issue, and you're trying to target larger numbers of people. What would be your goal?
I think a realistic goal would be education. Educating the community, educating people who care, educating politicians. That would be really good. I mean, stopping it. Ultimately,
you want to stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
in terms of something that is that we can see happening, it would be education.
But other chapters can do the same thing, right?
That's true.
So you could really look towards the goal of having a national campaign that would eliminate this. There's been some press on this, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
But not enough, and it's still happening.
right.
So that's a really important issue.
Yeah. you're the person being deported.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wasn't that part of the promise, if they enlisted, that they would get citizenship?
That was my understanding, or it was gonna be fast-tracked.
Yeah.
That it would be, especially if you got an honorable discharge, it would be easier to become a citizen. If there's somebody who knows something about that. Kimberly?
I was just saying, I don't know if that applies to the family either. Like a lot of vets are coming back and their families and mothers and fathers are being deported. They have passed DAPA and DACA for the childhood arrivals and then the parental arrivals. But I don't know if that, but I don't think that DAPA has went into action yet. But also another thing that you could request is for local lawmakers to stop communications between like local law enforcement and federal ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement. That way if they get pulled over for, say, a minor traffic violation, like running a stop sign, they don't risk getting deported. Which right now is the main way a lot of people are getting into ICE's hands. ICE, Immigration.
Right. Immigration control, yeah. And then there was really negative press on a young woman who was shot in San Francisco, which made all the papers. And the guy that shot her had been deported, they said 5 times. I mean, that, and then that gets all kinds of publicity.
Yeah, a lot of Facebook came out.
Which-
Donald Trump is a big mouthpiece for that.
Pardon me?
For the- Donald Trump has been a big mouthpiece for the negative. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. With that particular case, I saw that in the paper the other day.
But every time that happens, all of us should have at least public something in opposition.
To counter that, right?
Yeah. A platform.
A letter to the editor of the Chronicle, a letter, to whomever, published on indie media, published on your own sites, letter to the editors here saying, that's one case, one example. It's not the millions of people who have come here. And so, but this is something, I know it's hard to think about doing this every day, but there are people that do that. And certainly setting a goal for yourself of doing something once a month, twice a month, once a week, having partners that you do it with, realizing that every time you do it, you feel more full. I mean, this is selfish. You do this because you believe it. You do it because it is self-actualizing. You do it because it feels right. And the more it feels right, the more you'll do it.
I just wanted to ask you a question about this project. That maybe, besides the print media, that you start also looking at organizations that you can talk in front of. Like I'm thinking right now, for example, on the Human Rights Commission, they have an immigration committee. So that might be something that, with that type of thing, you come in and see if you can get some sort of resolution that the county makes where they're not going to deport.
That's a good idea.
There's just, there's so many organizations that I'm noticing that people do not tap into. There's nobody there. You should be there. Wow. And demanding these people are appointed by our our representatives, and we can contact them. So I was just thinking, expanding a little bit out more.
So if you got the Human Rights Commission to pass a resolution saying that they shouldn't deport
Right.
veterans who have served, and spelled that out, that would get into TV. That would make.
Yeah, I think that's a violation of human rights right there. They made a promise. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me.
Do they have a policy
There's nothing there.
limiting the amount of posts you can, like letters to be edited to post in a certain amount of days?
Yes.
It's a 3-month cycle for letters to the editor,
Yes.
but I don't
Long
think
time.
they don't follow it that closely. Because I've
They know
noticed
their
names
names.
there that I've seen
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
sooner. And the PD, if you just send a letter in, the last one I sent in was on the transnational corporate class because they had a pro-TP op-ed in the paper 10 days ago or so. So I dashed out a thing and sent it in. And 4 days later, they hadn't run it yet. So I sent it back, second submittal, and I CC'd the head of the op-ed, what's his name, Paul, I think. And then it was in the Sunday paper the next, and that was great. It was the first letter in the Sunday paper, I think last week. And so sometimes you just gotta be persistent.
Definitely. That's again the self-esteem thing.
What?
That again is the self-esteem thing. If you feel good enough about yourself
Absolutely.
and what you're doing, that you pick up the phone and say, why in the hell haven't you published my letter? We don't have to say it that way, but.
Well, they're professionals, they know what they're trying to do. You know, I've criticized them for them publishing letters that were racist. They said, well, that's a public opinion. I said, you know, and I said, well, you don't have to print it. You know, but, you know, when it comes to these kinds of things, it's really important to get it out on a regular basis. And part of what this workshop is about is thinking of ourselves as being able to do that all the time, regularly, on all your issues. And then finding where it works for you, building a relationship with, you know, Vesta at the West County Gazette, or what's her name, the Russian River Times.
Johanna.
Yeah, you know, and or even your local, you know, paper, and don't forget the radio. I mean, we've got more and more independent radio stations around. I mean, getting on COWS or KWTF or even KBBF on these issues. I mean, KBBF, that would be a perfect issue for someone from your group to go talk about. And especially if you had somebody who's bilingual.
We might have someone here who would interview you.
Right. So there's a lot of options of things to do, but part of it is making commitments to each other, whoever each other is in your lives, around the issues that are important to you. You're going to do something. What?
There's almost too many issues to choose from.
Well, you choose your issues as you go along. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but there's so many.
yeah. Well, that's true, but there's many of us. And we have to continue to be active and engaged, or we're really going to lose it.
And I think it's important, whatever the issue, that you are coming with your unique point of view. You know, maybe a personal experience that's tied to it, and it's very powerful the way you're presenting it to the readership. So, you know, maybe one day it's this issue and another, but if suddenly it's hitting you, then you must have something tied personally to it, and you have the passion, then you have a good voice to put out there. And I think another thing is that we talk with these editors, everybody's a person just like we are. They're making choices, you know, and we're giving them a chance also to self-actualize, as Philip talked when he talked with the editor. He said, well, you don't have to print it, do you? You bring it right down to the choice. He has a personal choice, just like we all do. Don't look, I don't have to, you know, it's not a protocol. Get beyond. You're a human being. Make a choice.
Now, with your issue, Bill, step number 5 has a whole bunch of different possible things. Number 1 is a press release. Could the group pass a resolution that then do a press release to the local newspapers that should pass a resolution?
I don't see why not.
I mean, that's, whether they would pick it up or not, I don't know. But you could certainly advocate for it. Say, hey, look, this is a news story. This is what we did. We're veterans. And especially you got some other veteran groups to endorse that as well. And that might be an issue that other vet groups might want to engage in.
Right.
I was going to make a suggestion. If you wanted to go to the Human Rights Commission, what you do is you come with your group and go into public opinion. All the press that you're going to be there giving the public opinion on that. And then maybe somebody would come out to do a story on it. I mean, if you know anybody in the press, you know, like Kevin or any of those guys down there, and they would maybe do a story. And then because they would be there, because you have the pressure, you're putting more pressure on the group to do something. Because most people don't want to do anything unless you give them that pressure. So that's what I would recommend, if you're gonna go that route.
I got an idea too, then on the internet, they got these petitions too, and some people have been very successful in raising attention to their issue with petition. And your petition, that could be a great nationwide petition that you then, you're going to give to some national committee member or whatever, or even to the county, just for the county, you can arrange your petition to target, different size groups.
Online petitions can be very, very effective. Kimberly?
I was going to ask that, especially with the issue of deportations, some immigrant rights groups have been very successful by pitting out specific people and having online petitions for their release, stating why they should be released. Also with the local representative's phone number, along with the petition, so people could call in and write letters. But always like picking out a specific person, like this person, has this many days before she or they are deported, and so on and so on. And then where the facility is at, who they can call. And those have been pretty successful so far.
Could we get 2 sets of the printed notes passed over here? Are there any left? Anybody that didn't get the notes, make sure you're on the mailing list, because I will send out copies of the handouts to everyone.
In an email?
You can have mine at the end, but I need to keep it here for right now. I have a very good success story around internet petitioning. A year and a half ago, the president of Sonoma State proposed to raise the fee by $500. That was on fast track. They were going to have discussion with students for 2 weeks, and all the benefits were going to be, get all the classes you need and all that kind of stuff, because classes have been very hard to get. And a couple of student clubs, including the one I supervise, the sociology club, we put an online petition on, laying out all the reasons why that was wrong and the impact on low-income students and a variety of things, student debt, all that. But then the petition, you could sign it, and it was a pledge that if this $500 increase was incurred, that I will never again donate to Sonoma State University. And in 3 days, there were 1,200 signatures, and they were going up by 12 to 15 an hour.
Wow.
We made sure the chancellor knew about it, and the day before, the president threw in the towel. That was student activism. It really worked. It's a little dictatorship over there in these institutions, and I've fought many battles and lost most of them, but that was one we really won. And that was the power of an online kind of thing, and a really clear message. So that possibility is always there. Anything else, Bill, on this list that you think you could do? Event sponsorships, speaking engagements, radio interviews, we talk about that.
All those things, the right person, somebody who's a good speaker that can address the issue.
A PR campaign is sitting down with your group or your friends and coming up with a strategy to do as many things as you possibly can do and getting commitments from people to engage in doing that. Who's going to write the letter about GMOs next week to the PD? Kind of thing.
Good resource for public speaking is Toastmasters.
Right. Good way to learn.
And if you're nervous, then just sit in the back and just take it in, and just little by little sit a little closer to the front.
I teach a class on the joy of public speaking that I have taught to activists that if you want to sign me up, I'll be happy to. I think it's really important.
Where do you teach it?
Just, someone invites me and set up a room and we'll do it. It's only a few hours, and I can guarantee you walk out of there, you will be less afraid than when you walk in.
That sounds like a good teaching subject.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you that. I'll send you the information.
Okay, we only have about a half an hour left, and I want you to write something before you leave tonight. So, you've heard everybody else here. Find a partner and write 2 to 3 sentences about your issue in a short, concise, plain language as you possibly can. And we'll give you about 20 minutes to do that, and then we're going to read them quickly and we'll wrap up.
Partner on the same topic, or?
Somebody, well, it can be the same topic, or it can be someone that you go back and forth with. Okay, time's up. We're gonna get out of here 9 o'clock. We gotta do this. All right. Some of you wrote more than 3 sentences. That's fine. Read the first 3 sentences. Or else we won't all hear each other. The idea tonight was to get you to put pen to paper and get you started on actually writing a letter to the editor. Next 2 weeks from now, you come back with a letter to the editor prepared. 200 words. And that letter to the editor is in 3rd person. Do not use the word I. The first sentence is a precise statement of the main point of the letter. That's the first sentence. And you have a paragraph that gives basic facts.
What was the first sentence?
Precise statement of the main point of the letter.
Oh, is that
Huh?
on the handout?
Don't use I.
That's on the handout, are you sure?
That's in the handout,
It's on the
yeah.
handout.
Well, I'm not saying you can't use I, but I think letters are far stronger when you don't. Well, this is my opinion, you know.
What about op-eds?
Same principle.
Is that close
A
to
letter to the
home?
editor is a short op-ed.
Is close to home an op-ed?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
but those would be longer. Those would be 500 to 600 words.
right. That's what I'm trying to write now.
But, so I would at least get you a letter to the editor, because it's actually harder to write than an op-ed. Because it has to be precise.
Right, I know, 200 words.
200 words, so count your words. I mean, or use your word counter. But let's go around. Bill, you're starting.
I do. I'll be quick here. In this era of thank you for your service, what happened to the non-citizen, honorably discharged veterans that have been and continue to be deported? Numerous such individuals have been deported despite promises to the contrary when they enlisted to serve in the U.S. military. Many of these are combat veterans.
Good. Okay, that's pretty straightforward and clear. I don't have time for a lot of feedback, because I want to hear everybody. But stronger first sentence, and the title will, American veterans being deported, something like that. Okay.
Well, I can send them out to
Have some,
everyone.
okay, we can do that. The letter to the editor summary was behind the one that says op-ed for print. So this is specifics. 3rd person, headline, first sentence, first paragraph, body, conclusion, what needs to be done, and then how you would sign it, your name, city, and phone and email. But that's your homework to bring back in 2 weeks. Hope to see you all then.
If you're not on the mailing list, please be sure that you are, and I'll send out Peter's handouts to everyone that's on the list.
Also, we have some